Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris, and welcome to another Thoughtful Thursdays episode. Thanks again to all our listeners for tuning in twice a week and for spreading the word about hacking your leadership. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Hacking Your Leadership and leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. All right, for this week's episode, I want to talk about the role hierarchies play in connecting employees to the mission of your organizations. Not many things universally impact the engagement, productivity, and job satisfaction of employees, regardless of where they are in their career or what their job is. But one thing that still does is whether or not that person's job makes them feel significant. And I don't mean significant as in famous or well-known, but significant as in that they matter, that the mission of the organization is one they view as important, and that the work they do is contributing to that mission in a meaningful way. It's an intrinsic part of the human condition, and companies that do a good job of making employees feel this way typically have good culture and low turnover. For years, authors and consultants and experts have touted the benefits of flattening organizations, where hierarchies are minimized or eliminated, where everyone can talk to everyone, and each employee feels like their voice matters just as much as company leaders. And there's definitely some truth to this thought process. But what if, even though employees claim to want hierarchies eliminated and to feel like their opinions and direction and responsibility is of equal share to company leaders, they inherently want the structure and reliability and lack of confusion that comes from the org chart? So what are the real practical differences between these two structures? Well, in a hierarchy, you rarely, if ever, get to pick your boss, your coworkers, the projects you work on, or the teams you're part of. In a flattened organization, nobody owns space, so employees get to focus their efforts wherever their passions lie. They can move on and off teams periodically, have several different streams of responsibility throughout the year. If high engagement is the goal, score 1 point for the flattened organization. Let's go further. In a hierarchical organization, processes and solutions come from the top and are deployed down. Whereas in a flattened organization, processes and solutions are created by whomever will be expected to execute them. Score another point for the flattened organization. And in a hierarchical organization, innovation is the job of resident experts, while in a flattened organization, innovation is the job of everyone. A person's lack of tenure or experience doesn't mean their opinions are discounted. After all, sometimes when you get too close to a problem, you're unable to see the best solution to it. Score a third point for the flattened organization. So on paper, things seem to be pretty one-sided. That's why back in 2013, Zappos started their Holacracy platform, which literally eliminated hierarchies. No more managers with titles and no more subordinates. I was fortunate enough to go through their on-site culture training right as they were implementing Holacracy, and they made it sound pretty amazing. 2 years into the experiment, however, their annual turnover started to rise. So what gives? Zappos has been known for years as having incredible culture and very low turnover. They seem like the perfect company to test this level of leadership. If it can't work there, can it really work anywhere? Do we just want to believe employees desire these things? Over my years of work on making the employee experience better, I've learned that almost everything related to leadership, culture, and engagement lives in shades of gray. Hierarchies are necessary for holding people accountable. They're necessary for defining job responsibilities. They give competitive employees career goals as they hope to move up within an organization. And the Stanford Graduate School of Business even conducted a survey that shows employees often prefer hierarchies. But hierarchies are also a breeding ground for the ludicrous notion that you can look in an org chart to see where the talent and the knowledge and the skills lie. Hierarchies hinder meaningful relationships because they make it virtually impossible to allow employees to pick their teammates. Hierarchies don't tell you who is smarter, who can solve problems, who can create process, and who can innovate. But for some reason, we think they do. Or maybe we know deep down they don't tell us those things, but it's just so much easier to assign responsibilities based on position because it's objective and it allows us to avoid making tough leadership decisions. After all, you don't really have to explain your decision to assign the responsibility of creating a brand new process to someone several levels up on an org chart, and you can very easily hold them accountable if it goes wrong. But if you assign it to a person at the bottom of the org chart, a person who will ultimately have to execute that process upon its completion, you'll inevitably end up rubbing people the wrong way. People higher up on that org chart who believe it's their position that entitles them to that responsibility. You'll also have to own some of that failure yourself if it goes wrong, since you're the leader who assigned the task. But here's the thing. That's okay because this is the process that leads employees to a feeling of significance. This is the process that makes employees feel connected to the mission of their organization. Not by being told they no longer have a boss and can decide how they want to contribute, but by being told their boss has confidence in them to take a stab at something they will ultimately be responsible for executing anyway. There are countless middle managers in the workforce who define their contribution every day by how many emails they send. They essentially move information from point A, their boss, to point B, their direct reports. These are the hierarchies that have no place in a modern workforce, where access to information is on demand and transparency is rewarded anyway. But that doesn't mean all hierarchies should be eliminated. It means great leaders should be expected to make subjective leadership decisions, absent a hierarchy, grounded in values, and then be able to speak to those decisions and back them up. It means hierarchy should be viewed as one tool among many that leaders can use to guide their decision-making process. And the only way that can happen is through the daily exercising of this practice. Leaders who ground their decision in a chain of command lose any credibility they have to make subjective decisions. They give up their authority to lead. But leaders who ground their decisions in values they never hesitate to share with anyone who will listen, will become reliably predictable to their people, and their people will start to operate in the spirit of those values rather than the spirit of the org chart. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Monday.